Hi everyone, I'm Jonathan Corrie. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Precursive. We're a software company. We help companies to bridge the gap between sales and success. We sell a range of applications that are used typically by mid-market and enterprise companies to manage customer onboarding, implementations, and services delivery. And the origins of this are that recently we brought together our customer success, services, and support organization under one person, which is the gent at the back there with the beard of wisdom, Graham Gill, who's our CCO. And I was looking to understand, like, how do we better package and productize what we're doing at various steps in the customer journey? Because we sell implementation packages, we sell managed services, we have customer success, we have support plans. So the origins of this is I did a Google search about 6 months ago, and there was nothing. And I asked Graham, I said, how are people doing this? What's the approach? And I think his exact words were, dude, people are making this up as they go along. So I started doing research across now probably about 30 companies, and this is the result of that. So this is what I'm going to cover. You can all read. So firstly, like defining what these things are. Hey, Alex. What are some of the industry trends that are influencing why people are standardizing and bringing these things together? How do you design, build, and sell them? What are some of the metrics and the benefits to your customers and to you? So in terms of a definition, the way that I observe companies thinking about this, right, is they're bringing together expertise that helps you to drive value for your customers on an ongoing basis. And typically that expertise is going to come from your, depending on what you call it, your post-sale organization, your growth sale organization. So you can be drawing on typically services, professional services, support, customer success. You may have different names for them in your business, but it's bundling those things together and either providing them to your clients or selling them to your customers, right? So that's a simple definition. Here are some examples of them. Now, this is by no means exhaustive, but if you think about your customer journey and the different sort of value moments that you have in it, you've got the initial implementation, you've got customer success, you've got support. Now, these are examples of what companies are doing in that space. One, at the front end, they're trying to orientate the onboarding around outcomes, right? A discrete set of things that you're trying to achieve over and over again for your clients. And the emphasis here is how do we standardize, how do we productize that experience for our customers to drive faster time to value? Success as a service was something that I saw typically in more mature organizations, like more mature CS functions, where again, they're looking to package CS and in some cases sell CS as a service into their customers. In other instances, it's just professional services rebranded, right? And sold as a standardized set of offerings. And really there you're looking at the adoption, the change management, and the evolving value that you're going to drive for your customers. Expert on demand, think about that much more of as a consumption model. In more mature organizations, you're going to see things like managed services, for example. A lot of MarTech vendors can have a healthy managed services business because marketing departments want to outsource effectively some of the grunt work because they want their marketeers marketing. That's non-project based, right? Think of it as like hygiene services, and you've got this continuous consumption by your customers. Right? These are some examples of the KPIs that you can find across these different things, right? Implementations, right? All your customers, they want to get value from your solution much more quickly than they have done in the past, right? So I want that value quickly. So some of the key metrics, the time it takes you to deploy, right? That's the gap between closed won to launch or go live, right? Pro tip though, your customers are thinking about that from the moment that they selected you in their mind, not the moment that they signed the order form, right? Time to insight is if you sell an app, a platform, your customer is going to get some degree of insight from it. It's the first insight that they get. Time to value is how they define value in their language. For us in our world, we sell, for example, something that services teams use. They get things like utilization data, time to value information, profitability. When they go live, if they've done a data migration, some of that data is there, but generally it's 1 month post go live where the value happens because they hit refresh on a dashboard and it's all there. Yeah. Success as a service, KPIs, NPS, expansion revenue, NRR, and those expert on-demand services, base expansion revenue, recurring managed services revenue, and support NPS. Again, not exhaustive, but some examples of the data points. So in terms of industry trends, like the world of services delivery or post-sale has been evolving very rapidly really over the last 10 years. I started in professional services. When I was working in professional services, you would have had me and two of my colleagues working at a client site for 3, 6, 12 months. It was a very static world of on-premise software, for example, large enterprise implementations, they take a long period of time. And kind of the mentality around this is all about the revenue and whatever it is, 30% plus margins you're trying to achieve, right? Pretty old school, right? The modern SaaS economy has radically disrupted that environment. Every company is building products deliberately designed to be deployed much more quickly than in the past. For some of you, you've probably got something that you sell that you literally just switch on, right, for a customer. And actually a lot of the work is around the change management, the learning, the adoption, et cetera, et cetera. What we call the right-hand side is high velocity services delivery, right? Rapid levels of growth, high volumes of work going through the post-sale organization, whether it's CS or PS or onboarding, right? Some of our customers, they have people working on 10 plus projects at a time, yeah? Very liquid environment, and it's very difficult to manage that world. Everything's moving around a lot. One of the companies I talked to, they have on the left-hand side about 200 million in ARR from an enterprise CPQ product that they sell. Yeah, and then they have an average ACV on the right-hand side of 10K, and they deploy in less than 30 days. And that's in the same business. They've got 2 PS functions, 2 CS functions, entirely different go-to-markets, entirely different like business functions. And this is the way that the world is going, right? You've got businesses that are on-prem that are trying to develop cloud, and they're moving from the left to the right. It lends itself towards standardization. This is a key thing. You get it right, you get that adoption, you get that value, you get advocacy, you get it wrong, and it's churn, right? So again, another reason why companies are standardizing, and this is a Gartner data point, is there's a direct correlation between that onboarding experience and duration and year one churn, right? In our business, year one churn was the thing that pissed me off more than anything else. We had it on, I think, one occasion in each year over the last few years, and it was all due to deployments, right? And the length of time it was taking. All right, so why Productize? Like, number one, your customers want it, right? No one's going, yeah, you know what I want? I want to buy your software and then have a 15-month implementation and lose the will to live. Like, that's not why they're buying your product. Improving onboarding drives better value. It will reduce churn risk. If you have a services organization and you can develop a standardized, productized offering, whether it's managed services, services as a service, you drive better utilization rates. That improves your gross margin. Your CFO is going to be happy. It can also increase valuation by actually putting more services revenue from a one-time column into a recurring column, right? You know, software companies are valued on ARR. However, what we saw in this was some businesses booking services packages as ARR because they'd fully productized it. It was a pharma tech company. Their customers have to upgrade because they have to stay in line with regulations. So they developed an upgrade package that they, finessed a little bit, but essentially everyone is buying it, right? And then maximizing bookings and rev rec. Again, if you've got that standardized delivery motion, both in terms of your implementation, but also in live, you're pulling forward revenue. Anyone who's selling mid-market or enterprise, buyers are much more savvy. They're not buying all your licenses up front, right? They may provision through the duration of the contract. The slower you go, the less licenses you get. And also, most SaaS organizations that I talk to, they recognize the revenue at go live. So again, pull it forward and you have a massive financial impact. So if you are in CS and you are trying to justify your world to your CFO, point out the accounting rules, right? And say, look, if I can improve that for you, you're going to have a better smile on your face, right? So I've talked a little bit about what are these things, what are some of the factors driving them. I'm going to look now at, how a company's designing, building, and selling them. So I'm going to unpack this a little bit in a little bit more detail, right? So if we start with the design, so who to involve? Well, I think, all of the companies that I spoke to, the ones that had done it the best were all commenting on it. It was very much a cross-functional group that we got in the room to begin with. One VP of CS said, the first meeting I would have done in hindsight would have been with the CFO, right? Because we couldn't get our pricing sorted quickly enough. So then we had these things and we couldn't sell them. Product and engineering. If you're going to create a package for something that you sell, you should ask your product and engineering team, does it lend itself to a standardized form of delivery or not? Because if we're trying to create a quick start package for a 250K ACV enterprise product, we might want to rethink that. Yeah, so get people around the table. And then the external research that you're going to need to do is like, what's going on in your industry? What are the trends in your industry around this? Like, are your peers doing it? Are your competitors doing it? Does it offer you an opportunity for differentiation? Is there a maturity gap for your product versus the market? One of the companies that I spoke to, Product Board, who are actually here sponsoring, we're trying to bridge that gap because there's a gap between what their product does and product management maturity in companies. Other inputs into design, so these are the things that are going to inform how you pull this together. Support cases. What are people asking for, or the problems that come up regularly? What are customer success stories? Ask your services organization. What are the things that you've POC'd or deployed with customers? Have you got an advisory board? If you don't have an advisory board, pick up the phone, call 10 customers and start asking questions, right? Delivery design. So that was the way that I was thinking about, like, how do you fold this together into a mechanism, right? So you've done your research, you've thought about what it looks like, work back from the outcomes that you're looking to achieve, right? Then what are the steps that you need to do to get your customer to that outcome as quickly as possible? How long is it going to take you? How long is it going to take your clients, right? And that's a pro tip, right? In all of these implementations or in these projects that you do, it's not just your effort as the vendor, it's their time, right? And that's what they're asking for when they say, hey, can you tell us what this looks like? It's like, how much time is this going to take me? Because this is something that I'm doing off the side of my desk, right? Right, let's move on. How am I doing at time? Outcomes mapping. So these are some examples of outcomes that we drive for our customers. What I'm looking to communicate here is, when you think about this outcomes mapping for the packages that you want, right? What are the things that are happening most frequently? So I'll go back to the product board. You work at product board, don't you? Yeah, so he's nodding his head. So I hope I get this right. So I think it's 75% of your customers are looking to improve the predictability and visibility of the product roadmap. Yeah? Okay, I was listening. Good, right? And so the services organization there, run by a lady called Layla, who's very, very sharp, said, look, this is the thing that we are looking to achieve. We see it often, and it has a huge impact for our customers. Let's focus on that. Let's not boil the ocean. Let's deliver that, and then we can work on other stuff afterwards, right? So do your outcomes mapping, impact and frequency. In terms of build, these are some of the things that you are going to need to build, okay? And I think about it in terms of, like, what's the enablement? So you've got your awareness, you've got your project plans, you've got your best practices, your point of view, right? If you don't have a point of view, get your services team, your CS team to sit down and write some thought leadership, write some blog posts. It forces you into thinking about, what are we going to bring to bear in terms of our expertise and how we differentiate ourselves through that expertise with our customers. Documentations, you're going to need SOWs, which is statements of work, contracts, inclusions, exclusions, proposal documentation. It is really important to focus here and get it like to a high quality, because it's going to build credibility and confidence in your customers. And then digital enablement. A lot of these are like pretty labor intensive, so you want to augment them with technology, right? Your communities, your knowledge bases, your blogs, et cetera, et cetera. Few examples. So I'm going to show 3 examples. This is something that we do at Precursive. So we'll sell a deal. We have a standardized implementation, which we're looking to improve. But we have a set of steps that we follow, right, that gets folded into our product that becomes a template. So at a later stage in an opportunity, we're letting our delivery team know that it's coming and they can start pre-planning for that work. And it gets built out with all of the tasks and the timelines and the owners and the capacity. So we move it from being in a template into a product. What that means is that you are going to have to map out in your own organization, what are these things? So I was chatting to a gentleman earlier, and he was saying, look, we really need to standardize things. And I said, well, have you got it written down what it is that you need to do? Or are these 10 people that are working in onboarding all doing it 10 different ways? And he's like, it's that. I'm like, right, well, you're going to have to actually write it down on what it should look like. This is an example from a fintech company, Go Cardless, of their success packages. So they've been rolling out success as a service. They actually sell this. And it's pretty elegant because when you go from left to right, you can see the story that they're telling with their packages. So on the left, we give you the tools. In the middle, we're guiding you. Premium, we're showing you how. And then you can see how they're breaking these things down to articulate the differences between the two. Now, there's more to it than that. And you can find some of this on some of our webinars. But it's a good example of like the thing that it's going to need to look like for your customer. Again, go back to the product board example, the digital piece. So it should be easy to consume on the website. There's a great blog example from them on, I think, design decision making. It was 5 of their PS team coming together, writing that. And they've then turned that internal, what's our point of view, into product marketing. Yep. It's great. Selling them, sales engagement, right? Engage your sales organization early. Like salespeople, most sales organization, the AE is comped on year 1 license revenue, right? So if you're having to either build services packages or you're starting to charge for implementations, for example, and the sales team is freaking out, you know, you can go to them and say, look, I'm going to take delivery times from X to Y from 120 days to 90 days, which gives us more time to sell more licenses. I'm listening. So know your AE comp plan. Are they comped on services or not? Because if they're not, guess what they're going to drop out of every deal that they do when the customer asks for a discount? Services, correct. And go armed with your data. What's the link, for example, between your delivery times and upsell, or services consumption and expansion, or ARR growth rates, for example? Yeah, the attach rate versus ARR growth. Enablement, you've got to do the hard yards again on thinking about what are the scenarios that the sales organization or the customer-facing organization is going to go through when selling these things. Consumption models. So I've talked about like how do you sell it, but there's several versions then of consumption, right, from the customer perspective. So one is I call it a la carte, right? It's pay as you go, unit based. Service points is another one. You see this in larger services organization. It's a drawdown model. You use it or lose it. And then the promised land, if you will, is this flexible consumption on demand, so subscription, right? If you can fold it into a subscription, sell it up front, you're going to reduce the procurement friction through the year, right? If you've got larger clients, you've got to raise a PO every time, right? If it's in an upfront contract, you know, that's going to have some benefits for you. Final piece, benefits. Got 30 seconds. So they're easier to consume, yeah, outcomes orientated and predictable revenue. It provides you competitive advantage. It gives you the opportunity to differentiate. Does your market demand it? And overall, it's accelerating time to value for all of the companies that I spoke to. It's going to provide consistency in learning, improvements in onboarding times for staff. David from ABBYY said, you know, we used to have a time to productivity of like 9 months. It's down to less than 2 months now. And overall, that confidence from your customers. All right. If you want to learn more about this, we're producing a white paper on it. Take a picture, get your camera out, and it'll come up, and you can register for that. That's going to come out next month. I've been involved in writing that as well. And then we have a booth over there opposite the puppies on how to build some of these playbooks. So we have a toolkit over there that you can get in person. I'll be hanging around here if you've got any questions. Have we got time for questions? I know the other guy went over. Yeah? Yep. Anyone got any questions?
Any questions, just raise your hand and I'll bring over the mic for you. Any questions? Okay.
Hey, I was wondering how you prevent removal of these professional services come renewal.
On renewal? Well, it depends. So are you selling services as a part of the ongoing license piece?
Yeah, it's like a higher support tier.
Right. Why would you want to remove them?
Well, the customer wants to.
Oh,
remove
the customer wants to remove it. I mean, for me personally, if that service package is driving value for the customer, then they probably wouldn't want to remove it. So if they were asking to remove it and that was a common thing that you were seeing, I'd probably look at the value proposition of the service package on an ongoing basis. And you might want to think about how you evolve that, because it may be that they're happy to pay for it up front for an implementation, but they're not getting the value from it on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and that's typically it, right? They learn all the tricks and then they don't want it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Or they think that it's a point of negotiation, for example. Any other questions? Nope.
All right.
Cool.
Give
Thanks,
it up
everyone.
for Jonathan.